Imagine being a child who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stop the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they must feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
That's me in the very beginning. Now I am a baby and getting zoomed from my mom to my birthday. I don't remember a lot about my younger life, but I remember it was fun and I felt so safe. My mom and dad always happy. I guess my mom's sister was mad that my dad was so great, so she called the police and said he hit my mom. We were all reading and they came. I heard my dad yelling, "There, no way!" My mom was crying loudly. Some lady took us away. The court said my parents abused and neglected us. They only loved us. The caseworker lied. I never saw my parents again. I'm still hoping one day they come. I am a victim of CPS and so are my parents. We need to find justice in all of this madness for all of us that are being abused. It's not fair. Every kid I know has a mom and dad. I know they miss me. I bet they fight every day for me to come home.
Don't get caught like us. Know your rights. Childhood, growing and developing years of a person. This is meant to be a highly important time to create morals, fundamentals, and skills necessary to be a success. Instead, the trauma CPS creates in these young minds set a path of disaster, and statistics prove it. In nearly 90% of their cases, the trauma is unnecessary. Time is the one thing that can never be given back. CPS takes away moments in life that can't be replaced. The time just keeps going. Doesn't mean a thing anymore. They left as children, and it's up to them when they come home if they know who you are. Each second away is time you will never get back and keep getting older.
Studies are leading towards incarceration.
Now comes the honorable judge in the halls of justice, where the Constitution will hold strong, and your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will trample CPS for all they have done to your child.
The truth and corruption that's revealed to you is enough to make you sick. This is not America we were sold.
Children are being taken from families at the rate of one a minute. It needs to be stopped.
It's time to wake up and abolish CPS.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
Alright guys, what is up? This is CPS Punisher here on CPS Victims Hunting Justice. How are we doing tonight? It is Friday night, and Friday night is usually Connie night, but we've yet to hear from her. She is probably very tired from being at the Senate, fighting with us in Washington, running back and forth and up and down the stairs and all of that stuff. So I don't know, if she calls in, then that would be great. If she doesn't, we definitely understand. But as of now, she has not. So the clock's ticking. Connie, regularly, we are waiting for you to call in on CPS Victims Hunting and Justice. We miss you tonight, and we hope that you're doing well by us all in Washington. Please remember all of us parents and do the best for us. You are a great person for doing what you do, spending the time in this. And if you hear this, call us up. You know how to get in touch with us. All right, guys. As you know, we have the chat right over this direction here. Boom, boom, boom. How do I get this freaking hand? I don't know. There we go. There's the chat. Please make sure that you guys chime in where you're from, what you're doing, what you're talking about, all that good stuff. That way we can know what you're talking about. If you got questions, Melissa this week, Melissa and Herbert tag teamed up on some things, and they solved a couple of people's problems that were chiming in on the chat, dude. So you guys, you don't know what could become of it in the chat, but something may. So please do that. Also, remember to share, like, subscribe, tell your neighbors, like it, subscribe again, watch this, pass this on to a bunch of people. Whatever you guys got to do to make this show get out there, get viral, and let's do it. That all being said, what I do not want, personally, this is my personal opinion, but what I do not want is I don't want people out there slandering any names of any people that are on our shows. I don't want to hear any dirty words coming out of anybody's mouth that supports this show, supports any of the people that are on it. There's a lot of buzz going on in this CPS world right now, and it makes me sick because the whole idea is supposed to be unity and coming together for the children. And this buzz is making things seem like people are using things for their own personal gains. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I want to believe that. But what I do know is if that is the truth, well, then we will parade the streets of Washington asking for these people's resignations. But until we can get those facts, I don't want to hear anybody slandering anybody that spends their time fighting for the rights of the children CPS have taken. Whether they're an advocate, whether they're a radio personality, whether they're a podcaster, whether they're a senator, whether they're a congressman, whether it's the president, whether it's Herbert, I don't care who it is, please save your slander for yourself and for some other conversations and some other platform, because you know what? We don't have time for that here. That does not promote unity. And we need that now more than ever to push this thing forward. Now, granted, there are a lot of people out there that say that they support our show, but yet I never see them on it. That's okay. You know what? It's okay that you guys don't watch our show. But it would behoove you to at least tell someone else to share it so that way we can get more coverage to tell people the real news, because that's the way I'm starting to see us guys as the real what's going on in the protection agency news. So that all being said, let's bring out the panel. We got Sir Charles with us tonight. We got Madame Melissa, and we also have Herbert, the law enforcement guru. How we all doing, guys?
And that's good.
Hey, Herbert.
Herbert,
Good.
How we doing, Herbert?
Fine. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. What is the weather out there in Arizona tonight, Herbert?
Right now it's in the 80s.
Oh,
It's about almost 7. What time is it there?
Right here it is
No, what time is it?
9:58. We got 9:58 up here.
So that makes it 6:15. 6:15 here.
So, but it makes it 70 degrees outside here in Maine.
Oh yeah, but no, here the sun is still the sun, I don't know if you can see, but the sun is still up.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Yeah, the sun is
real
still
nice.
up. It's still pretty daytime.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Hey,
Yeah.
Melissa, Brooke just asked. There you go. Brooke just asked, "How do you share?" I've been trying to get a hold of Brooke. If she wants to come on tonight as a guest, let's send her a link. Brooke, do you want to email? Do you want a link to come on the show tonight? I know we've been missing paths here, but if you'd like to come in, we're more than welcome to have you. But could you explain to everybody, Melissa, on top of Brooke, how to share this?
So just under the video link on YouTube in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little link that says share. You click it, it'll pop up, and you can copy the link and share it to everyone in your phone.
All right. That's cool. Charles, did you hear that?
I don't understand it. I've always had trouble with that, but doesn't matter. I'm
Well,
here.
I mean, Melissa was just giving you a little heads up on how to, so maybe you learned.
And Carrie says it's right next to the thumbs up button.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Hi, Charles.
Hey, Herbert, how you doing?
Okay.
Hey, Charles,
Yes.
that Rule 59 I did, how about the family court attorney filed a motion to withdraw today?
Why?
Because he was outed for failing to defend his client. He didn't turn in the paperwork. He didn't do depositions. Yep. So he withdrew.
Oh, sweet.
Instead of replying to your motion.
Well, I mean, there was really nothing to, reply. We were just submitting evidence. And we might have said that the attorneys had it for 2 months and just failed to give it to the court. So the attorney decided he should exit stage left.
Very good. That's badass, Melissa.
What do you think will happen next? I mean, you think they'll get another lawyer, or what will happen?
Well, they said they are at peace with him quitting. They feel that they have a better chance of winning without him. Like I told them, even a court-appointed attorney could stand there and do nothing, and that don't cost them anything.
Wow, very good. Herbert,
Yeah.
Do you have any new news? Any updates on your homework?
No more calls yet. Still the same information.
You got nothing?
No more. No more information. I was not able to get through to people. Just put it on hold.
Must have been because of the
CPS.
holiday weekend.
Yeah, CPS, a number of states I call, they put me on hold.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, maybe that's good news for some of these people this weekend. You know what I mean? Maybe that's good news for some families that they'll get a few more days of good time with their children before these jerks come through and try to steal their kids. You know, I know that this
Yes.
is a very hard time for me. It's our daughter's birthday here in another couple of days. She will be no, she'll be whatever age she is. But this time of year really sucks for us. It's my dad's birthday, which he's passed away on the 29th. My daughter's birthday is in a couple of days, which she's obviously taken. So we don't really celebrate this Memorial Day weekend so much. Now, I don't mean that by meaning I don't celebrate and have thanks for the people that have died in the field of battle to promote my freedoms, which we exhibit on this show. I don't mean that by any stretch, but because I have nothing but the most respect for every person that puts on the uniform. What I do have a problem with right now, though, what I really do have a problem with is this American flag. Now, when my father was alive, never ever would I have put this flag upside down. He was in the military, and there's one thing that I know what that flag upside down means. Do you guys know what the true meaning of the flag upside down is?
Distress.
Yep. And would you have to say that the children being stolen from our homes puts the United States in distress?
Yeah,
If
I
that
would think
don't, I
so.
don't know what would.
I mean,
So
you're there for your children, and your joy is your children. You work for your children. You know, you do everything circle around your kids, and then if they're not with you, you're in distress.
So, Darren, something about the day they took my kids. How about it was the next day after Mother's Day?
Oh, yeah, of course. So you love Mother's Day too. Nothing better than that.
Well, when I met with the director last week for Mother's Day, being that I'm an hour and a half from the Gulf. For Mother's Day, I loaded everyone up. We went down to the Gulf. We ate at a seafood restaurant, one of those big fancy $30 a plate places. Bought all the kids whatever they wanted. We grabbed our poles, grabbed a bucket of live shrimp, went out to the coast, and we went fishing. So I had pictures from all of that, and I took all of those pictures with me when I met with the director. I said, I want you to lay eyes on how bad my kids are abused in my care.
Right.
So I started flopping out these pictures, and she points at the one. She says, who's this girl? This one ain't your daughter. I said, that's the 14-year-old that I got started in school. She was starting to make honor roll. Then you guys took her. The GAL told her to run away. Now she's 17, almost. She's on drugs. She's hopping from man to man. She's had 2 miscarriages, and now I can't fix her.
That's a mandamus.
Then she was looking at pictures of my son fishing and, and them laughing, and they're happy and they're enjoying life. And I swear to you, she almost, that's when she was like, Melissa, I am so, so, so sorry that this has happened to your family.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice that they really said that, and it was met with some sincerity, right? Like, we don't get any of that here. Like, that takes a lot for her to come in to a simple situation like that, evaluate it from what it's worth at the face value, and then apologize to you. That's a big move by this woman, and I commend her for doing that, because there's not enough of this apologies for screwing up families' lives that will take generations and generations and generations to fix and absorb, to feel that shock level, because you're going to have these kids that are babies like my daughter's size and everything that have been removed at a young age, that she was old enough to know like who we were and who we are, so it's just kind of like, man.
Well, and the sad thing about it is You know, my son goes to school 1 mile from my house. You think I'll ever be able to walk in that school that they won't look at me and say, oh, look, that's that piece of shit that lost their kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and every time I walk in there, they're going to be looking for a reason to call the state. My son's been out of my home for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know how hard it's going to be for him to transition back here?
Right.
It's going to screw up his whole world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this would be the 9th move in 2 years.
Wow, 9th move. Holy smokes.
Yeah, they bounced him from foster home to foster home to foster home all over the state because he was acting out because he wanted to come home. He still acts out because he wants to come home. They had to pull him out of my arms the one time and he damn near snatched me bald. I mean, like literally took a whole handful of hair with him.
Right. Wow.
And then they refused to give him a toy because, you know, he literally took a handful of hair.
Right. Now, are they allowed out there to, are you allowed to bring things to your reunification visit? Like, so up here, they ask you to bring a snack, something to eat, because, you know, you have the...
Well, actually, that's kind of a national thing that they tell you to bring a healthy snack for the child. So that's kind of a universal thing they do in all states. But yes, I do bring snacks. Sometimes me and Junior will hop on Amazon and we'll go new tennis shoe shopping or a new jacket or, you know, whatever he wants or needs for school. For Christmas, because they're right next to a grocery store. Okay, so they have some of the old retired carts and they use them for mail carts or just shuffling stuff around the building. How about I had to fill up 2 shopping carts with toys and clothes and stuff for the Christmas visit? And they gave us an extra hour just so the kids could not just open their toys, but actually play with them.
Wow.
Yeah, so the department is very well aware that I'm always bringing stuff in for the kids. I'm always bringing in clothes, you know, because if you don't bring in material things for your children, even if you're giving money, they will still consider that a failure to provide. So I make sure to give stuff, and I'm not worried about giving them a bunch of money.
Hey, Darren.
Right.
Darren.
Yes, sir.
Darren.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
I have a gentleman. I'm walking. He's here with his wife as I'm walking my dog.
Okay.
And I just happened to ask him if he knew about CPS. And he was telling me about how they dump files. I'm going to put Mike on. This is Mike. Mike, just look at the camera. There you go.
Hey, how you doing? So I knew in Arizona they've
Mike,
recently.
Can you hear Mike?
Yeah. Yep. I know in Arizona that
we got him.
They've had problems with CPS for years. I know that they redid the organization not too long ago, but some of the problems in Arizona where they were just dumping files in dumpsters behind buildings, so they weren't like properly protecting people's information. There was a ton of HIPAA violations. I know there's also been trouble with like the foster families that they've been placing children with, where the families have not been as legitimate as they should have been, and children are suffering because of that. So those are just a couple of problems that have recently happened in Arizona.
Well, unfortunately, bad foster homes are nationwide.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's really, because like Melissa always says, there's no parent that's going to love their kids like their own parent. Now, here's the thing. There are foster homes that are doing this just for the money.
Right.
And it's a shame that they don't focus on them more. Like they'll sit there and pretend that your kid's the most important thing at the first beginning of the case, but then as the case drags on, they start visiting less and less. They in fact start leaving the kid in more responsibility of the foster parents and going on and on. Now this kid has been torn away from their home. CPS caseworkers have stopped going there to see them. Maybe the foster parents are just there to get a check. which I bet you is probably 80% of these foster parents, right? If correct me if I'm wrong. And now you have a kid that has such emotional turmoil and such PTSD and all of these things that they start acting out. They start destroying things. They start being what they consider uncontrollable. And like Melissa's his son, now he's being moved along and brushed away to another foster home because they can't figure out what to do with him now that they've broken him. That's about that. You know, like that's how that stuff works.
Well, and Darren, Darren, there was a case out of Texas. There was a case out of Texas where the mom had her rights terminated in Texas. She moved to Missouri. This was a case that my little independent reporter friend told me about. How about Texas CPS looked her up 6 years later and said, we can't adopt her out. We can't control her. Can we give you your daughter back? And when they gave her her daughter, the girl was so dangerous and out of control, she had to turn the girl over to the state of Missouri because she was afraid the girl was going to kill her kids or her, like she had went cuckoo.
That's awful. We hear so many stories like that. You know, sexual assaults in the foster home are rampant. You know,
well, sure. I mean, what better job for a pedophile than to get a foster license?
I don't know, a school bus driver, but anyway, you know, it's disgusting. And there's so many studies. What was his name? Mike, right? If you want to check out that stuff, check out, there's a study done by the University of Baltimore. It's called the what about removal? Oh my gosh. Oh my God. What is the name of it? I have it right up here. Hold on a minute. I think that I'm getting the brain pain here. I think that I'm losing my memory. The failures of removal.
You can't remember shit disorder?
CRS. I've got it. It is the, oh my God, the something of removal. What is it? The University of Baltimore's, the failure to removal or the penalty. All right. I'll find it for you there and I'll get that up there. But also now, as far as dumping files go, I know that there are files that have been dumped. I know that things have gone on. As far as actual news stories and leverage that they've done, I don't know. But I will tell you this, that all of us that have had CPS cases from the day that we started our CPS case, our files are completely different at that point than they are at the end. I know that there's things that are not in there anymore. And I also know there's things, not only do they dump files, things that you never saw or did. So that's on a double-edged sword. So the answer to your question to both is, hell yeah, they do both of these things, and it's not fair, it's not right, and it needs to be stopped.
Well, you know, in my case out here, how about the old director, the corrupt one, the one that we're suing? How about she actually told me, you know, all the records from the services that you did with that company? She says, well, they don't exist anymore. And it was all shit that I successfully completed, but she made away with the records and said that I failed to comply.
And what they do is they're always. Can you hear me?
Oh, Herbert.
Hello? Yeah. Hey guys, can you hear me?
We're losing you, Herbert.
Oh, okay. I was here.
All right, Herbert. Till you get. All right. Charles, what do you think about that? What we just were speaking about? Well, we're waiting for Brooke to come on in. Melissa, you sent Brooke the.
I can't figure out. I've got a question. Why do you think my camera's not working tonight? Huh?
Because you didn't turn it on. Did you push the little button that has it off on here? The little camera button. Does that have a line in it or anything?
I can't make it.
That would be it, buddy.
You might try logging off and re-logging on. Sometimes that's what it takes.
Okay, but anyhow, what was the question before I do that?
The question was, how do you feel about, since you're fairly this, how do you feel about the foster families and the dumping of records? How would you answer that question?
Loss of records is just that defeats the whole system. I mean, if who lost the records? How are they lost? I mean,
well, no, in Arizona, they did have a big news thing on it. They found that CPS was taking everyone's case files. They were taking them out back and just throwing them in the dumpster. They weren't securely shredding them. They weren't nothing. They were just throwing them away.
Why would they destroy those files at all? Those are, basically
trafficking children.
Well, I mean, that sounds like
illegal.
No, I was going to say like very major crime. I mean, the destruction of evidence is a federal crime. It's a crime in every state. It's a potential act of racketeering. It's the complete negation of both the bureaucratic, the purpose of an administrative system and a judicial system. I mean, you were telling me that about the records in your case that were totally within the control of the judge, and that's wrong too. I mean, that's a constitutional violation in itself, that only the judge would have control of the records, and that they, that these are not made permanent and available. I think any court that doesn't have records that everyone can look at is not a court. And I would say that there should be no proceeding anywhere that affects anybody's rights of any importance at all, that should not be a court of record. I mean, justice courts in Texas, small claims courts in California are not courts of record. You can insist on it, but it's because the amounts of money are so small. But when you're dealing with children, I would say that human life, there's nothing more valuable than human life. And it should be, everything that's done should be documented, documented to the nth degree. Every intervention that a government agency makes in private lives should be subject to every kind of examination and audit, just like all our lives are. I mean, whether we like it or not. I mean, we are constantly being watched. We are constantly being asked to provide information. We can be penalized if we're not, and the government should be subject to even more stringent standards of record keeping. And so, I mean, I think that's a major flaw in the system.
Right. I agree with that.
I agree with Brooke commenting that she wrote a few minutes ago. They're mandatory, supposed to keep them for X number of years. I mean, the minimum number of years that I thought all government, it was 7 years. All government records had to be maintained for 7 years.
So in the state of Florida, CPS records are kept 17 years.
That makes sense, because you can't take a child much before his.
In Alabama, it's 15 years. Michigan, it's 10 years.
So any destruction before those time periods is a crime. It's really pretty simple. It's obstruction of justice, witness tampering, tampering without evidence tampering. But the general federal crime is called obstruction of justice.
Well, I mean,
that's basically what got Nixon impeached, was the idea that during the Watergate cover-up, he was destroying evidence or trying to prevent people from the Senate or prosecutors from getting access to it.
A politician shouldn't destroy evidence?
Whoa.
Ain't that shocking?
Right. Holy
I
smoke.
mean, it is a federal crime, and you know, if we ever want to talk about RICO cases, anytime records are destroyed, that is a very clear and well-established predicate act under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
Well, that's what about the foster families and the kinship families and so on about that he was talking about?
What do you mean?
Just like in our state, you know, they referred to foster homes as puppy mill houses. You know, where there was actually a foster family just recently charged with like one attempted murder, a bunch of abuses, all kinds of shit. And I believe they were here in Alabama, and they even went on to say that there was something like 60 or 70 claims against this foster home. And come to find out, they were fee splitting and working one-on-one with a CPS agent. So she was sweeping all the crimes under the rug and allowing them to still continue to take these kids. And it was something about a kid broke out of bondage, got out of the home, and made it to a neighbor's house or somewhere. And the police finally arrested them, and they ended up arresting and indicting the CPS worker too.
That's good. All right. Do we have Brooke in here yet?
I sent her the link.
Okay. We're just waiting for Brooke to come in. Any of you guys out in these comments, any of you guys have any special questions or anything that you guys want to talk about with this Memorial Day holiday coming up besides thanking the troops? Actually, we don't use Memorial Day to thank the troops. I'm sorry for misusing that. Memorial Day is to celebrate the lives that were lost in honor of our freedom. You don't thank a veteran. Oh, you thank a veteran every day. But Memorial Day is reserved for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for themselves and their families. So please, guys, don't get these two confused. It's very common thing. But you know, if you're thanking a veteran, make sure you thank them for their service, and they're still upstanding in the service, not because they had passed away in a Memorial Day thing. So just a little tidbit of information about that. What about that hearing yesterday? Did you guys hear? Did you hear any more about it?
I haven't heard any more about it, but I've been trying to rally the troops to get the stories in.
What was the hearing? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Charles wasn't part of that, so why don't you enlighten him, Darren?
So the Senate Finance Committee got together and pretty much, I guess we were leading the way on this again. You know, with our letter, the one that we say send out to everybody, the letter that we came up with, Charles, you know the one I'm talking about, that says, dear whomever, we want you to go and investigate Child Protective Services.
I remember that.
Yeah, so essentially it was that same thing. And they're saying, hey, look, I think it was either 6 or 10 years ago, I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that, but they came up with this bill or this act or whatever it is, the law. I'm not sure exactly because it runs with the American Safe Families Act, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So with this, they came up with this thing, and what it is the committee, you know, wanting to know where the money's going for the kinship programs, for reunification. They want to know. They just want accountability. Now,
they want accountability of the incentive funding.
Right. So here's the problem, though. Again, they're not hitting the nail on the head with this stuff because they're not talking about wrongfully removing kids. Right? Like, they're not talking about them kids being wrongfully removed. They're doing stuff about these kids that have had everything that they could given to them. And that doesn't,
well, here's my thing. You know, if you get a $1,500 at the time they're removed incentive, the day they're removed, they get immediate influx of $1,500 to their branch. Okay, the worker gets $32 a day, and that gets divided between the supervisor and whatever workers are beneath them. That's every day per child. Okay, so if you take away that funding, why the hell are they going to want to come get your kid? It don't pay for their vacation no more. So I think that's quite a bit of it, that if we kill the funding, you know, they will slow down on wanting to take the kids because of it.
Right. I agree. I mean, we got to hit them where the purse is, and then the other thing is we keep firing that void ab initio at them, right? Like, let's get parents to realize that they are screwing up, and let's get these void ab initios out there, and let's us try to force it into them and say, we're not waiting for this adjudication. This document needs to be put in the back, sealed up, shut up, burnt up, whatever they do with it, and it needs to go because this is not right for what you're doing, right? Like, that's just common sense, I would think.
So one, Darren, I sent you some case law. Two, Charles, I was talking to Yancey more in depth today about what Connie was saying about misappropriation of funds and everything. He says, yeah, that falls under a Lincoln Law claim.
Right.
And he says he likes doing Lincoln Law claims, especially since you actually get half of whatever you're claiming back. He was talking about doing a couple of them last year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I can't wait to see the fireworks on this one. That's going to be good. And if he's even a quarter of good as what you've been talking about and saying, I can't wait. I yet to even speak to Yancey, so I'm
well,
anxious
here's the thing with Yancey. Okay, is he the best writer? No, but he's willing to go toe to toe with anyone.
I see.
But see, we got Charles in the background. We could get Charles to write it. Yancey to sign it. And then, you know, then he'll go toe to toe with them. So if we need it wrote even prettier, we'll get Charles write it.
All right, we can do that. We can definitely do that. What do we got in the green room, Melissa?
Brooke's here.
All right. Finally, we get Brooke. Finally.
Hello.
Herbert had a question.
Hello.
Hey, Herbert. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I had a school teacher before that dealt with CPS, and I see as I'm walking, I'm talking to people. That's all. As a school teacher, she
Hey, Herbert, you're stuck in fast forward. You need to reconnect.
Right. Okay. Let's get it back. Okay, come back, Herbert. Come right back.
I caught something about speaking to a school teacher about CPS.
Right, and they sound like Alvin the Chipmunk. Yeah, you know. All right, let's see. Brooke's out here with us, guys. This is Brooke. This is Brooke. Welcome to CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I know we've tried to.
Whoop, you broke up a little bit there. I don't know. Maybe my signal's whack too.
No, Darren's a little glitchy at times.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was saying, Brooke, I was saying that we've tried hard to get you here before, but we got you here now, so what say you?
Yes, I am up in Minnesota.
Yep.
My little boy was removed 3 times, or had 3 open cases with CPS before they finally terminated my rights back in July of 2022. I haven't since. My Title IV documents, my signature was forged by the social worker and her supervisor. I have documentation of that. They actually told on themselves in the caseworker's notes after the hearing. You can get records of the whole on the caseworker side, because they have to keep like a time log of who they contact, and what's brought of it. So I read through every single one of their notes, and she had asked the supervisor what she should do because I would not contract with them, and she told her just to forge my signature.
Oh, Jesus.
So I think that's a felony offense on both their parts.
I believe so.
Hey, that may qualify you for one of those claims for misappropriation of funds.
I think so.
Yeah.
What else happened in that? I mean, I've had so many. Like I said, I had 3 open cases. The second day after he was born, this all started with me. And it wasn't even because of me. It was my daughter. I have an older daughter. Now she's 21, but at the time she was not of age. And every summer we had it in our divorce decree. I was married to her dad till she was 2. And in our divorce decree, it said she goes to his house in the summers. So that summer there had been some CPS involvement over at her father's house, and they ended up taking her under his care. And then it was like not even a month later after they took her, and I was trying to get her from my mother, who I was disarranged from for 8 years because of my growing up and having to deal with abuse and neglect and stuff. I ran away actually when I was 17. It was the best thing not talking to my family for 8 years, but I had to get re-involved with my family because they had my daughter. And a month after I found out that they had her, I found out I was pregnant. Well, then the whole case shifted.
Weird.
They completely stopped talking about my daughter, and it had nothing to do with my daughter. All of a sudden, it was about me and my unborn baby, which the case never even involved really me or anything to do with me. It was about because she got taken from her father's house.
Okay.
You're not the first one to give that kind of a story.
Right.
It just totally shifted. Yep. 2 days after he was born in the hospital, they came and took him on accounts, they said, because my daughter was not in my care, that I shouldn't be able to care for
her. Because your daughter's in care, it's grounds to take him, and then they immediately look for a buyer. They did that in my case.
Yep.
Like right now, my daughter is in care because, and they kicked me out of the hospital a half hour after she was born.
I had an emergency C-section, and I was kicked out of the hospital, double dosed on morphine, and kicked out of the hospital. Yep.
And then the foster that had my daughter actually got their license to be a foster because they were promised my daughter. Well, my daughter got removed from them due to allegations of molestation against other children.
Okay.
And since moving my daughter out of that home, she went from being nonverbal, non-expressive, just a sad shell of a child, not potty trained, not anything. In less than, I would say, a month, she talks, she counts, she does her ABCs, she sings bingo. She plays, she jumps, she frolics, she gets dirty, she acts like a kid again. You know?
That's the one thing that I had.
Because that foster home lost her, now the foster home is coming after me directly. And Charles, something I thought of. You know how we found case law saying that, if a foster home is in possession of a child due to the fact that they have the right to intervene into other areas of the case, it establishes the right to intervene in court? Yeah. They don't have the right to appear at my ISP meetings or anything involving my kids. So why should they have the right to intervene in court?
Seems legit to me.
The CPS workers had said after they took my son how he was so far behind in everything, and he was non-vocal and this and that, and after 3 months they finally let me see him after removal. Another thing was they didn't they didn't give me notification of the first court hearing after, the 72-hour hold. They were required to hold a court hearing, and they never gave me, and the judge actually put it in the order that I was not notified of the hearing, but they still held it. And I had told my attorney, whom I never signed for, that he just appeared at the court hearing. I never asked for a public defender, but he showed up there, and I told him that we needed to appeal that ruling and that hearing, and he told me that it was non-appealable, which it is.
Yeah, it is appealable.
And he told me that it wasn't appealable. And I fired him publicly 3 times on the record, and he still worked the case. He tried to get me to sign a blank piece of paper. Yeah.
A thought for you, something you may look for. And, Charles is a disbarred attorney. He'll tell you, I study as much case law as he does, especially things involving notices of hearing, the timely events of hearing. I have found a lot of cases that are 2, 3, even 4 years after termination that they were not notified of the 72-hour order, and they have been able to overturn the cases.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow, that is, you don't even know.
I'll tell you what, I have your email now. I'll look up a couple of those and I'll send them to you.
You almost put me in tears.
Yeah, no, I was actually just looking at it right before the show. Actually, Darren, it's in the case law I sent you under the grounds for void ab initio under a dependency case. One is a failure to notify, a failure of due process.
You don't even know. That would be so amazing.
Mm-hmm. For so many people, right?
So
they did so many corrupt things.
I'll send you that over, and you could read through that. And I would try finding an appellate, someone who does appellate work in your area.
See, I did do an appeals on the termination, and the appeal attorney went and voluntarily dismissed my case behind my back without talking to me or anything. And I called the appeals clinic.
A lot of them do that, unfortunately.
And they said there was nothing else they could do because I didn't have a case anymore because it was voluntarily dismissed.
Yep.
And she ended up getting an admonishment because I had reported her. And that's basically a slap on the wrist to her as an attorney. But that's where my case stood.
There's a case in Nebraska that I was trying to help the family fix that. One of the hosts that we used to work with, Deidre, their attorney did that to them. Waived their right of appeal. I got a family out of South Carolina. There's a lot of court-appointed appellate attorneys that they do a brief read, judge finds them guilty of harm, and these attorneys are throwing it away without putting forth any defense for their client.
Mine was they were trying to decide if they had jurisdiction, and because my appeals attorney wouldn't file it on time, she went on vacation, and I kept asking her, are you going to get this filed? I got it all filed in district. All she needed to do was file it because I didn't know how to do it in the appeals court. And she went on vacation. She told them that she was sick and this and that. But the admonishment came on because she didn't get it filed in time, and it was her due responsibility, and she didn't. And they basically gave her an admonishment because they said that they didn't think I wouldn't win my appeals anyways.
Well, we do know a disbarred attorney who occasionally likes making waves. Don't we, Charles?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Can't imagine who you're talking about. What state are you in again?
I'm in Minnesota.
Okay.
She's in Minnesota.
Everything that I speak on, I have black and white proof of everything, not just by what I'm saying. I have it all documented. I didn't talk to anybody on the phone. I told them my phone was broke. Everything is through email, so I have black and white proof of everything that I talk about. After 3 cases, you get kind of smart.
Right. You know, you start learning more and more. But what if
Yep.
you would learned all that stuff before all of this, Brooke, right? Like, what if you
Oh,
knew before even knowing about CPS, you could probably have thrashed these people, right? If you were educated, let's say
I'd have
even
my
just for
son.
30 days. Right. Right. That's just it, because there's things that you could have done or they do together. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many scenarios where
Yep.
they're not going to be in harm's way, or when they are.
That's
You
why I
know,
try to
so
advocate when I can, where I can, to people that are going through this. I'll stick my nose in there and be like, "Hey, look, I got
Well, and Brooke,
knowledge. I've been through
if
it."
you want to get a little smarter on it, we are working in combination with a national recognized group. We're going to be holding some advocacy training to teach
Hell yeah.
people even more. So, stay
Most
tuned. We're going to
definitely.
try to do that next month.
Yep, sign me up. No, I don't wish this upon my worst enemy.
No, there is a few cases that they refer to losing the termination of a child equivocal to a death penalty, because that's the only one that your right is severed in a way that is non-repairable.
It is. It's a death penalty to the person as a parent themselves, because like I had my next, 17, 16 years of my life planned on being a mother. They took away everything that I knew. Every day I got up, I fed my son, I got him, ready for daycare. The next morning after they took him, I got up. I didn't even get out of bed. I didn't have no reason. I have no reason to go to work and have a job and hold a house over my head. And, it took away the meaning to my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It is the death penalty.
I think you did just describe it right there. You know, they took over your whole entire life.
But
I
you
feel
know what, Brooke?
worthless now. Like I have no worth or no point in life.
Well,
They ended my
and
life
that's what they
earlier.
try to do. They destroy what people are, and that's what I kind of think that a lot of them live for it. They love destroying people. But here's the thing. Okay, let's say, that he goes and he gets adopted by this family, stays in this one family. He knows he's adopted, but when he turns 18, he comes looking for you. How would he feel if his mom was dead and gone because she killed herself? Then he would feel that he wasn't good enough. So no matter what,
Right.
when that son comes up, you still got to do the best you can, because someday, even if you lose the time now, someday you'll be reunited in a way that, things can be made right. Whether it's on this playing field or the next, you'll be reunited with him someday, and you don't want to risk any chance of ever knowing your kid because you gave up. And so every day I stand up and fight. And in my case, they buried me with so much paper that sometimes it was upwards of 3 or 4 filings in a day.
Right.
I mean, it was absolutely abysmal. And
they've tried burying me with criminal case on top of this. They went and corruptly planted some drugs in my vehicle when they pulled me over for failure to signal 100 feet before the stop sign. I'm currently fighting that case. It was 2 days before my filing for the in the appellate courts. They thought they could keep me in jail long enough so where I won't get it filed, is what I'm thinking. But they didn't know that I already had it filed in district court. And I think that's what saved me, because I already had it. I knew district court well enough but I didn't know how to go about. That's why I applied for a public defender. And they pulled me over because I didn't signal 100 feet before the stop sign. And then they searched my car. I got the body camera footage and everything, and you can see clear as day. They threw out some drugs, or per se, whatever they said they found, over the seat to the other officer. And you can see that when the officer came around the corner, I was already at the stop sign and I had my blinker on. Like, it's all a bunch of bullshit. but I'm trying to fight that on my own right now too. That trial is at the end of August, but they're trying to set me up on criminal shit to silence me even more because I haven't been quiet about any of this. This is retaliation for trying to fight for my son.
I have a friend up in Minnesota who is, he's kind of like me a little bit. He's an outlaw, so to speak, in the law, and he's very good at criminal defense. Melissa, give her my email if she wants to get it.
I'll tell you what, Brenda. Brooke.
His name
Brooke,
is
email me your contact, and what I'll do is I'll reach out to you after the show, and we'll get you some case law. We'll get you in touch with some people.
Oh God, that would be amazing. I'm up here trying to fight all this crap myself, and it's overcoming.
Like I say, I literally was just reading, not even 2 hours ago. I was just reading a piece of case law where it got ruled void ab initio because they failed to serve the 72-hour notice on the parent to appear.
Yeah, that would be, oh my God, I don't even know.
You know, and so, I mean, there may be options for you. If it's noted in the record, there's definitely some options.
In her order, at the end of the order, it says I was not notified of the hearing, and she still ruled that my son was to be under CPS direction.
Well, yeah, because they have him, they're there, and you ain't there to defend it. So, you know, what she should have done is ordered a rehearing and that service be performed, and she should have done that within 72 hours.
Well, that's what I had told that public defender that I never signed up for. I told him that we needed to appeal it, and he told me that it wasn't appealable. I have the email from him stating that it was on an unappealable order. When it was actually after I found out after the case and done all my research.
Orders are appealable, but it's not a standard appeal. It's a little bit different because it's not a final order. It's not a standard appeal, and I have found from talking to, in my state alone, I've talked to over 70 attorneys. And I'm not joking about that. I literally Google attorneys in every major city, and I've literally called, I would say, at least half the attorneys in my state. And I find that most attorneys don't even know you can appeal the shelter order. Because in my state, it has to be done through what's called a writ of mandamus.
Just so you'll know, the writ of mandamus is not an appeal, so they're right.
Well, right. You know what I mean, Charles.
It can be.
It's all about the wording to them, though.
It can be reviewed by writ of mandamus.
Yes.
That's not an appeal.
Well, they call everything in this state that goes to the appellate court an appeal.
Well, that's terribly ignorant of them.
Wait a minute. You read Hayden's motion. She's the GAL who says, I never make recommendations. Oh, yeah, and I don't do my job. And I don't want to testify at the hearing where I made the recommendation to place the child with an abuser.
Well.
So they're all pretty ignorant. Thank you.
Right. If there's anything that I could have to do, the first thing that I would ever do would be to get rid of that fucking, sorry, excuse my language, that black dictionary or black laws dictionary. Why can't we all speak English? Why do they have to have their own freaking language to confuse us?
Now you're talking about something that I actually do have opinions about. I agree.
That pisses me off.
I agree with you that Black's law is horrible, but it's because it's misleading. Every state actually does develop its own legal legal usage of legal terms, and that's why basically Black's Law is like the biggest cop-out, and occasionally you see even state Supreme Courts or even the United States Supreme Court citing it. And basically, I don't think that anybody understands why, because Black's Law is basically only good for basically a person in a private person, a person who's got no idea about ever going into court and just wants an occasional reference to a legal term, maybe to explain something that they read in a novel or something. That's all Black's Law is good for, is like, enhancing your reading experience of the New York Times or the New Yorker magazine or Washington Post or something. Nobody should ever, ever, ever use the definitions in Black's Law dictionary, but your state, Minnesota, Alabama, Michigan, wherever, Florida, everybody needs to get in the habit of looking to the state law and how either the state legislature or the state courts have construed a phrase. And I mean, in Montana, for instance, has an index of legal maxims that have been adopted by the Supreme Court and the legislature, and it's like legal proverbs, basically, book of Proverbs in the Bible, that sort of thing can be useful because it's been adopted by the state. But law is entirely language, and law is, by definition, a different language from ordinary speech. And so there's no way out of that aspect of it. There will never be a time when law ever becomes ordinary English unless we literally abolish all courts altogether. And I don't think that people are quite ready to do that. You can look back through history and think of times like the Vikings and the ancient Romans, where all trials were basically held by the community at large. That's not really practical, say, in Los Angeles. It's not even practical in St. Paul or what's the other city right by St. Paul? I can't remember.
Minneapolis,
St. Paul. I'm sorry, yep. I've had a long week, but I agree with you, and that Black's Law is terrible, but it's not because it's possible to dispense with legal language. Law is a language, and basically, I've always been saying that, and a good friend of mine who's currently running for justice on the Supreme Court in Montana, almost 20 years ago, we submitted a proposal that the first year of law school should be taken out of law school and taught in high school. Nobody should graduate high school who hasn't been exposed to tort and criminal law and civil procedure and criminal procedure and a little bit of genuine constitutional law. It's the language of survival. Every bit is, your car. Nobody says that, that certain words shouldn't have a certain meaning when applied to a car, and yet your car is simple. No matter how complex computer-operated systems it is, your car is very simple compared to the law. And yet there are terms, from a crankshaft to pistons that have unique functions in a car, and they're going to be different from the use of those terms everywhere. And that's just the way to approach it.
The biggest problem with law is it varies so much by state. Like down here, in Michigan, if you're having a court hearing and it gets continued to a new date, they adjourned it to the next day. Down here, you say they adjourned it to the next date, you'll be looked at like you're an idiot.
Right.
Because down here, they continued it. So the law varies so much on a state by state just based on the wording of it. And I find that Michigan probably has the laziest law. Like, I mean, yeah, no, the things that they write in their motions and stuff up there, and how rude they are in their motions up there, they would not try that down here in Alabama. They would have already lost their license. Just like here in Alabama, and I think it's kind of the same over there in Louisiana, they use a lot of old law school terminology for a lot of the documents where the northern states now call them something different.
We
Writ of
should all be on the
mandamus
same
in
page.
Maine is not called a writ of mandamus. It's called a 103B something. I had the list because I had to look them up because they abolished the use of the term writ of mandamus. Instead, they assigned it a number. So, under all of that, I mean, it makes everything vary so much. I think that's the hardest problem with understanding the laws is
Exactly.
little words make so, the difference between using the word may in a document and the word must in a document gives the document a whole different action.
Well, but I mean that's actually a very dramatic difference, and I mean that's fairly common usage too. I mean, you tell your kid you may go to the playground tomorrow, or you may go to the playground right now, or you may go swimming is very different from saying you must go swimming, isn't it? Right? I mean,
Right.
it's a totally different expression. So I mean, don't blame law for that. That is just ordinary English. May means something very different from must, and shall is something slightly different too. It's more like must, but it's maybe not quite as emphatic as must.
But not quite a must.
What?
I said better than a may, but not quite a must, huh?
Well, I'd say it's a little bit more discretionary. We shall overcome. We shall overcome is a statement of intent and an aspirational prediction. But when you see a shall, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't. The word must, if it's not followed, could lead to your favorite thing, void ab initio. If they say they must do something and they don't do it, but if they say they shall do something, that might just be voidable instead of void, or it might, be. It might have no real significance at all. But the judge shall consider all the evidence.
I agree with the comment that I put up on the screen from one of the viewers where, she says, we're not taught these things anymore. It's bad when you walk in the dollar store, you buy a soda, you buy a candy bar, you hand the woman a $20 bill, and she has to damn near break out a calculator because she can't figure out the change.
Yep.
There is so many things that are being lost in our schools. It's like they're intentionally dumbing down our children so they will be less likely to rebel. And I think
yes,
most of the population, around 30 and older, is the last of the generations of people who are willing to stand up for our country, stand up for our freedom, and go to toe with anyone that threatens our family. And
they don't teach social study, or they don't teach social studies no more. Or history, they teach social studies.
Well, and now we got Common Core math. Let's teach someone trigonometry so that they can learn how to pay their light bill. There's so many simple things that people need to learn that they're busy focusing on these things that you'll never use, and the common life skill is lost.
Yep.
I mean, in the state of Alabama, they do not teach cursive language. When you tell a kid to sign their name, they print it because that's what they were taught.
Yep.
So, but it looks like we're starting to run a little over in our time.
Oh.
I want to thank you for bringing up Black's Law Dictionary, though, because that's a very interesting problem.
There's so many different meanings. Like if you look up the meaning of what does it mean to be underage? Oh, I'm having that brain fog. What was that?
A minor?
A minor, yes. Look up the definition of minor in Black laws, as opposed to, like, when you think of a minor, you think of somebody under the age of 18. A minor in Black laws dictionary is somebody who is incompetent of representing themselves in a law of court. So we're all minors, according to them.
In the state of Alabama, because each state has their own definition by statute. In Alabama, so in the state of Florida, a minor is anyone who has not obtained the age of 18. In the state of Alabama, it is anyone who has not obtained the age of 17, but is over the age of 12. And a child is anyone under the age of, 11 or under.
Yep.
So really, it kind of just depends. And like a minor in Michigan is anyone who has not obtained the age of 16, because at the age of 16 in Michigan, they do consider you an adult. And they do lock you up in the adult jail if you get a driving on suspended. Trust me, I figured that one out the hard day. 3 days past my birthday, and I got sentenced to 90 days. So really, again, it falls down to a state-by-state difference. You're charged with a crime in one state. It may not even be a crime in the next state, but depending on the severity of it, you may still be punished for, something that ain't even illegal in that state.
I just hate how there's dual meanings, or dual definitions when you go from the court of law to, per se, normal human Webster dictionary definitions. You go from the Webster's to the Black law, and they can mean two totally different things.
Well, I don't think there's any easy solution for that, because, like I said, your Webster's dictionary will not necessarily cover everything in automotive or computer science either.
Right. I like your idea of having to learn some sort of law in high school.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
most definitely.
In a free society where that's supposedly democratic, how can people vote if they don't know anything about what they're voting for? I mean, that's basically why we have such a crappy, pardon my French, political system right now, because basically the politicians will pick and choose issues that are easy for them to rally people around.
No, they rally people around the one good topic on the top of the 2,300-page thing that they're voting on, and they hide all the scary shit down inside. Because Biden signed that Reform Act thing that he signed, and it was 2,300 pages, and only 2 of the topics in there actually helped us. The rest of them were ways to further open the border, further traffic the immigrant children, pay more money to foreign countries for wars that we shouldn't be supporting but are, diminish the amount of people we have in military, cut their pays because we're sending money overseas. I mean, that bill fixed 2 problems and made 12 more. So I think politics is going to have to be the argument of next week's show, because we are over on our time, and I'm sure Herbert has some questions or statements or something.
Ending statements.
Yeah, the only thing I was saying is, yeah, what I was doing earlier was I was walking the streets with my dog, and I got the idea of talking to community members. And I ran into one guy that was telling you about the dumping of the files. I ran into another lady who worked in a school and told me how CPS came in the classroom and took kids out. She wanted to talk to you guys about that, but we never connected.
Well, no, Herbert, you were breaking up and you sounded like a chipmunk on crack.
That's how bad it was?
Yeah, it was bad. You were on like fast forward.
High speed and you were catching every word, but it was very funny sounding.
Yeah. Well, I was walking. They were doing their walk, and I was trying to walk with them, and they were willing to go on the show and talk about her experience with CPS in the classroom.
Well, maybe
So I just
maybe
got
we'll
this
catch
idea.
her next week on your walk.
I'm sorry.
I said maybe you'll catch her again next week on your walk.
Oh, I catch a lot of people on my walk. I just started talking to people on my walks about CPS. I just started doing that. But what you got to do is I got to keep them still. I have to keep them still. And, when I say, look, I got somebody that wants to talk, then you guys can listen to them.
Right. So, Herbert, in the spirit of things, any last words?
Yeah, I last words. Last words would be that I think people really should learn their rights and understand what they can and cannot do in the circle and the village of Child Protective Services. Don't make any assumptions. They really should research their rights.
Yes.
And for their children. I think people need to really do that. What I wanted to comment on earlier was about the search of the vehicle. And I wanted to know from the person that was talking about having a car searched and they're putting drugs in, what year was that?
That was 2022.
Okay, recent. That means they had body cameras.
Yes. It showed them. Like I said, it showed them passing drugs back and forth to each other. They said they found them in the center council, but yet they were throwing them back and forth to each other and didn't ever show them taking them out of the center council.
Did you have drugs in the car?
No. That's why I let them search it. I mean, because I knew I had nothing in there.
Okay.
I don't do drugs.
Yeah. Okay.
So I let them search it, and you could clear as day on their body cameras. I don't know why they submitted their body cameras into evidence like that, with that being shown, but maybe they didn't expect me to watch the body cam footage. I don't know.
No. I mean, they're putting themselves on the line with that type of situation. I mean, back in the day that happened, there was no body cameras. But nowadays, police are ever so careful.
Yeah.
Ever so careful. So, the other thing, I know this is not the time to talk about it. Melissa, if you want to give her my phone number, that'd be fine. Because I don't understand, why did they even ask the search on a traffic stop?
It was a setup, okay? It was a setup. They knew she was speaking out. She's making a lot of noise. She's making political waves. They want to silence their opposer.
Okay. Is she from Melissa? Is she from one of those?
Different than Brenda's husband running for sheriff against a corrupt sheriff. When you're dealing with a smaller area and you got that corruption, there ain't no easy way to get away from it. Once you get hard, you're done.
Does she live in one of those little small towns that you always tell me about?
I live in a town of 2,000 people.
Okay, that makes sense. I get it. Everybody knows everybody.
Yep.
Okay, because in my environment, I don't give a flying grapefruit. I don't know what you're going through with CPS, and I don't care. Right, and I'm not going to search your car on a traffic stop. I'm not going to harass you. You follow what I'm saying? I don't even know
the judge in my CPS case, the judge was the county attorney for the county that they busted me in supposedly for these drugs for 19 years. She was the county attorney.
Okay.
In my CPS case, so they're all connected. They're all connected, and like I said, it's a very small, tight knit community. Everybody knows everybody's business.
That's the issue. Because in a larger environment, that doesn't happen.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Herbert, we're way over in time.
Okay,
snap.
everybody, know your laws, know what you can and cannot do, and those are my final words.
All right, you have a good night, Herbert.
Okay.
Brooke,
Yes.
what's your final words?
Don't ever let CPS into your house without a warrant. And do not trust anything anybody tells you. Do your own research. Look it up yourself. And that's what I got. If you have your babies, hold them extra tight every night.
Yep. Save your memories. Because you
Yep.
never know. Well,
Being a parent isn't guaranteed.
For my final words, I'll put out there, never quit fighting for your families, even if your rights have been terminated. Don't give up. Don't quit fighting. Don't lose hope. Because the second you lose that fight, you lose that will to fight, I should say. There is no one out there that is going to fight for those kids like you will. There's no one out there that's going to love those kids like you do. Therefore, keep up the fight. Keep moving forward. Learn everything you can. Learn how to use their policies against them. Learn how to use their own laws against them.
Yep.
And I think that, at some point very soon, hopefully, we can start holding these people accountable in a way that brings our children home. Hey, Darren, what's your last words in this?
I got all kinds of last words to say, but I'm going to keep them very simple, just like always. Keep everybody nice between each other. Don't say anything nasty. Don't say anything derogatory. Keep everything under wraps. There's no reason whatsoever for any of us to be attacking each other at all whatsoever. Friend or foe, be kind in this, because none of us need these extra hiccups. That's for damn sure.
Right.
We don't need this. So just keep your mouth shut about other people, just like when you were a kid. Can't say nothing nice. Don't say anything at all.
Well, and Darren, I think next week, if Liberty would like to come on, I think that she might be an interesting one to come on and speak, because she says that, she's willing to teach people.
Yeah, I know. I was reading her comments. I agree 100%. I was reading her comments.
I invited her.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Brooke. I'm glad that you finally made it on here, too.
Yeah, me too.
So that's great. That's good stuff.
She's good people.
Well, everyone tune in Monday for Josie Mondays.
Josie Mondays is coming up. Hey, Melissa, what about what we talked about earlier? Are we going to do that?
Yeah, I think after here, we're going to hop on a live on TikTok. So, people can catch us on there. And I think on TikTok, you can have your live involve up to 10 people. So, people look up Darren's TikTok, hop on there. My TikTok's under Missy Hall. Just because I got sick of the GAL in my case stalking my TikTok.
Right, they do that.
So look us up on TikTok. We're going to be on there continuing the discussion.
All right.
If you can invite me on TikTok, I appreciate that, Melissa.
What's your handle, Dan or Punisher?
I'm CPS Punisher. Yep, just look that up, or Fight CPS. Okay. I think it's Fight CPS 2 or something. But CPS Punisher will get you to me.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Right on.
Have a good weekend.
You too.